I do believe economic wise, we're going to see some very positive things for business owners in the next year.
This is the PMP Industry Insider Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome out to another episode of the PMP Industry Insider Podcast, where we take a look at what is changing in the pest and lawn industries, and we take you to the front lines of those that are driving those changes. I'm Donnie Shelton, owner of Triangle Home Services, which has Triangle Pest as well as Triangle Lawn. And with me in the new year is the undisputed, I don't know what you're undisputed for, but we'll just say Mr. Dan Gordon. Dan, would you like to say good morning? Introduce our sponsors, our topics, and our guests.
Sure. So good morning. Happy New Year, Donnie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. So this is Dan Gordon, PCL Bookkeepers and M&A Specialists. We do outsourced bookkeeping, accounting, and exit planning services for the pest and lawn industry. And let's talk about our sponsors. If you're interested in marketing for pest or lawn, it's Coalmarch, offering marketing services specifically designed for pest and lawn care companies. Whether you're looking to grow or prepare your business for sale, Coalmarch can help you get there. Learn more at coalmarch.com. The next sponsor, who we are proud to have, and I think this is the third year out with them, is PestSure, providing insurance product tailored for the pest and lawn industries. PestSure understands the risk of the business and offers coverage that fits your need. Learn more at pestsure.com. And drum roll, please, we have a brand new sponsor, and that is Voice for Pest. My good friend Tom Welsh, who we always see at every trade show. They are the pest management industry leader in designing, implementing unparalleled voice solutions for PCOs from any size, coast to coast. And by the way, that was written, but I know for a fact that they integrate with Real Green, so they're into the lawn care business as well. And what they do is really pretty cool. We'll be talking to them, having them on the podcast. So learn more at voiceforpest.com /podcast.
Hey, and just another shout out for our vendors here. I use all of our sponsors, and obviously Voice for Pest is we are, if you're just catching up with the podcast, we, meaning Triangle, is actually making a change to Voice for Pest, mainly for their AI capability. That's going to be happening this year. In fact, I think it starts this month. Still will be using CTM for tracking, but that will probably go away later on in the year. But for now, yeah, we're on board, and so we were very impressed. If you've not listened to the episode we did previous with Voice for Pest, we talked into this some of this AI, and I think we're planning on doing a few more episodes up this year. Pretty impressive product, and again, they didn't ask us to do this, but I'm just I don't push anything that I don't believe in.
I was at a meeting where one of their customers did a presentation on what they're doing, and with Voice for Pest, and I was blown away with some of the stuff that they're doing. So it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
And listen, if you're interested in a peer group, I think we've got like 60, 65 people now in our peer group.
Mm-hmm.
If you're interested in joining an insider peer group, please visit us, pmpindustryinsider.com /peer groups. And our peer group is run or facilitated by our good friend David Billingsley, who is a wealth of knowledge in the pest industry and has quite a resume. So anyway, let's talk about our two favorite guests. And obviously we, like to get some different opinions, but the first podcast of the year is, drum roll again, Donnie and I. And we're going to talk
my
about
favorite guest. I mean, come on,
let's talk about it. Something that everyone loves, me.
Yeah.
So, so we're going to talk about the 2024 recapping and then forecasting 2025. What should you be doing? What are some of the trends that we're seeing and whatnot? And so I guess let's jump into the economy or demand for our services. We'll talk about sales and marketing, technology, M&A, and some other things that I'm sure we'll go down a couple of rabbit holes. But let's just start us out.
I think overall this year, I think we're through. I remember, so COVID happened and everyone just kind of blew up. And so then we had a couple of years of, I mean, just some really strong sales, really strong leads. And then everyone went back to work, and we kind of had, I call it the hangover effect. I would say this year it's been kind of more on par with kind of your standard. I mean, look, we've seen growth. Most companies I've talked to have seen growth. I have not checked how Orkin finished out the year, or
Very, very
Rollins.
strong, very
Yeah,
strong.
but I mean, I guess that's my point. And then you look at like Rent-A-Kill, with their Terminix acquisition, and um, I'm not sure how they finished out as well. I mean, I'm sure we could pull it up here, but overall demand was pretty normal, right? I mean, it was sub 10%, of course. And how do you define demand? Is that revenue? Is that leads? There's multiple ways of defining it. The way I like to define it is revenue growth. When you look at what's really being sold in the market, and I mean, I don't know, Dan, I'm sure you got the pest index that's coming out here pretty soon, but it has been pretty consistent, like around the 6 to 9%. I don't,
Pest index shows probably around 10 or
yeah.
well, and lately it's been better, but during there was definitely a blip where it popped down.
Hmm.
Um, what's interesting is when everybody's saying the economy is amazing, go buy stocks, blah, 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 real estate's going through the roof, that's when it all crashes, right? When people are
Hmm.
scared because, oh my gosh, it's a different year, things aren't, well, maybe they're going to be okay. And when people are nervous, that's when markets tend to go up. That's when
Hmm.
demand tends to go up. And I think that that's where we are because nobody's saying, although after the election, there's definitely that there's a new feeling of optimism, I think.
Well, and I think
But
that's been kind of the thing for 24, right? I mean, when you look at, we were, think about this time last year, what we were talking about. We were talking about inflation, right? We were talking about how rampant inflation was. And I think, the Fed had just pulled rates up, or, and things were really slowing down. And we saw that. I mean, I certainly saw it here in the markets that we operate in. The housing market really slowed down, not terribly, right? Um, but the other part of this that I think is pretty interesting is we quote unquote avoided a recession. I mean, I was convinced that we were heading for one. And I mean, and then did some industries experience that? Certainly the housing market did, because you remember the housing market was just white hot there for a while, and inflation was taking off. And then of course once rates went up, that really slowed that industry down
I think
dramatically.
one
Although
of
it
the
wasn't it
things
wasn't bad as 2009 though. It wasn't that
Yeah,
bad.
well, no, it wasn't like that at all. And I think what's interesting is it still kept prices high. And the reason is because 2009, there was a lot of speculation. There was a lot of, investors who used borrowed funds. I think this time around, you've got most of the countries locked into these really low rate mortgages and they're not leaving because you
There's
know
no
what? You can't
reason.
you
Right.
sell it and then you got to buy up and you're going to get something as good or worse for more
Right.
money. So that's curtailed supply. But there's still demand out there, but
Right.
even at higher interest rates. So that's kind of interesting in the housing. But what about home services? I mean, what do you
Home
think?
services are up. Yeah, I think home
Yeah.
services are up, and I feel really good about it. And what I mean by
Mhm.
that is that this goes back to something that we've talked about for a number of years now. I mean, I remember I talked about it back when I was running Coal March, which is, look, you have to look at the big picture. And Bill Connerly, I know I reference this article a lot, but he talks about this whole issue with labor, and how big or how much of a problem labor is going to be and is. And obviously if you're in our industry, you already know, um, we do have labor issues. But the fact is this is a market that's expanding. And what I mean by that expanding, I'm talking about home services in general, because again, remember, more and more, um, I don't know what generation we're on now. What we on beta now? What are we on? And what generation? So everyone's told you don't want to dig ditches. You don't want to do blue collar work. Go get a degree. Most kids are not taught, and this is not me being an old man here. Okay, I'm not. Most
You
now.
are, but you're not acting.
Well,
You're
but
you're
my
not.
point is like, the fact is that a vast majority of the newer generation they have not done their own pest control. They've not done their own lawn. They've not done any of the tasks that you would typically do. They have been taught you call someone to do that. So here you have a market that is expanding in terms of demand. You have a lot of baby boomers that are retiring, and your labor is shrinking. So I mean, so it's just to me, the future has never been brighter. I really feel that way. In fact, I was having a discussion with my kids about this. We were talking about, obviously my kids are, I've got two in college and two that's going to be in college within 4 years. Well, five for my younger guy. But I'm like, look, college is great, and I'm not anti-college, and I think college is great to maybe kill some brain cells if that's your thing, or learn how to think. I think all those things are good, but ultimately, I think our industry and home services in general, I can't think of a better industry to be in at a better time. And the reality of it is because what's happening in society, right? I mean, listen, labor is going to be an issue, but I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about this later on the podcast. But technology is kind of covering the gaps. The advent of AI and some of the other things that we're seeing, they will not cover all of them. But our limiting factor, and I've said this multiple times, and I will continue to say it, it's going to be labor. It's not going to be demand. And so I just feel very uh, bullish. Is that the word? I don't feel bearish about what's coming up in 25, and I don't think it's going to change. And so on the residential side, I mean, to me, I don't think it's ever been brighter. I really feel that way. I mean, obviously, COVID was a
No,
godsend.
what's interesting is on the news, unemployment's ticking up. It's
Right,
ticking up to what, four and a quarter? I mean,
right.
historically, that's full employment. So, but yeah, no, the other thing is this whole gig economy, I think, is skewing the numbers,
A little bit, and
you know,
and look, there's also increased demand on the commercial side. I
mhm.
mean, one big trend I saw in 24 is that everyone's like, this work from home stuff stopping. You're coming back, which means a lot of these buildings that sat empty for a while, they're getting they're getting filled back up again. I mean, remember, Amazon took a hard line on this. They brought everyone back. Apple did that. I mean, these are technology companies that you see in the news, but they're not the only ones, right? I mean, in our industry, I think the vast majority of us in our industry, we did it for a bit, but now everyone's kind of back. But I'm talking about these
Are
these
you,
great.
is everybody, all your office people, are they back 5 days or?
Oh yeah, yep,
Okay. We brought
absolutely,
them back. We're 3 days. So we
yeah.
have 2 days of, flex. Yeah. It- because of the type of person we're looking to recruit, maybe a mommy CPA or something who needs flexibility, that kind of thing. So we're at three, but a lot of the bigger accounting firms are 5 days. It's the whole COVID thing is.
Well, listen, I'll air some of my dirty laundry here, and it is dirty. Let me just tell you. When we were in COVID, we had 17 people in the office. I have half.
What?
I have half that staff now, and I am way bigger than I was in COVID. We'll just say that. So bringing people back was a massive, massive improvement for Triangle. So we'll just say that.
So you had 17 people not in the office.
Correct.
You didn't break the law and tell
Yes,
them that they
no,
all had.
no, no. But I mean, I absolutely, if you've been keeping up with the podcast, we're in a new building, and I just set that precedence. I was like, look, we get this new building, we're going to fill it up. And so if you can't work in a building and this is not your thing, you've got 2 years. This was back when, I'm like, you got 2 years to figure it out. But this whole working from home thing is going to go away. And
By
it
the
has
way,
really.
if you the new building, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see Donnie's new building. He's got a little balcony out there where I guess he eats his bonbons at
Oh, and
lunch.
a
It
hot
seems to be
tub, a
raining. Seems to
pool.
be raining there
It
though,
is.
but it's nice and sunny and
It's a cold, wet, rainy day today when we're recording. So anyway, I mean, again, on the residential side, I think we're doing great. I think on the commercial side, I think it's pretty strong as well. I think over 24, and I think we're going to continue to see that. I think it's probably going to level off. And then, there's this whole thing of climate. I don't know. To me, it's like climate, like, okay, yeah. Um, I'm not going to go into that. All right. So that's demand. Let's talk about sales and
so you're
marketing.
a hater on the whole climate
I just,
thing and sustainability and climate and
I will say this. I'm not a hater. I'm very queasy about saying dumb things
Mhm.
that I don't necessarily agree with or understand. Can I? can I create a causational relationship from correlation? Absolutely not. If you've sat in one of my presentations, you'll know that I do that funny correlation thing where I take and I show how climate change is caused by pirates, right? That's what correlation can get you. So I quease when I talk and I try to create causation that somehow climate is causational, has some sort of causational relationship with sales. And I'm just not going to make that assertion. So with that, let's get into sales and marketing.
Yeah.
24, significant trend. Well, just when you think it couldn't go any higher, well, it does.
What, the price of Google leads?
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
But I will say this. I mean, one trend that I have just, well, there's actually really two trends. The first one is I really, 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 really like the fact that ChatGPT is getting into the search game. They are boatloads behind. I think they're going to be behind for this year. They got a long road ahead of them to catch Google. But the fact that, there is something that powerful that can digitize and synthesize content. I think if any company has a potential of doing it, it's probably OpenAI. And they're talking about trying to. I know Sam Altman is trying to get OpenAI, so they're a for-profit company. And if that happens, I mean, who knows, right? I mean, that's kind of a trend for 24, but something that I would really be watching in 25. Now, would I put all my pay-per-click campaigns on Bing or some of these other browsers that they're using? I would not, but would I do an experiment? I absolutely would. So that's the first trend in 24 that I think we're going to continue to see in 25. The second one is
What do you think of social media
that's where I'm going.
as
Yeah.
a okay, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So the second trend is just, oh gosh, I just hate this trend so bad. And because it doesn't follow like the way I think, but it is happening, which is, listen, I'm telling you right now, if you're of the age of 20 and younger, I don't think anything exists outside of TikTok. It's just amazing to me.
Instagram.
And, maybe Instagram, right? But just this advent of what you have to invest in and investing in branding on TikTok and YouTube and Instagram. I mean, I just think that for me, I say I loathe it, not because I hate the brand. I'm not a TikTok hater. I'm certainly not lined up at the Supreme Court there telling them they got to sell it or get rid of it or whatever. I'm not one of those folks. But I will say that I loathe it because I don't know that I fully get it. It's out of my generation. And
Yeah,
so,
so explain that. Explain how. Listen, I get it if you're a boater or a golfer or you like a certain, you can join groups and watch video, but I got bugs in my house. I'm gonna go to TikTok. Or
yeah.
is
Well, I
it
mean,
just
I
as my
don't,
kids say, it's brain rot. You just watch it and then
no,
it'll
no,
be
listen, I don't
installed in
think,
your head.
yeah, these are not, to me, listen, these are traditional media platforms. This is no different than if you were doing network television. It's all about branding, right? Am I going to put a call to action on some ad of me running after ants and, no. Will that work? Probably not. But the stuff that people watch, like hell, even the stuff my kids watch sometimes, they
It's
watch people.
unbelievable.
I mean, it's in real, right? I
The
will go
Florida
and
man.
listen, my little son Owen, I'll never forget this. This is like last year. We're on a vacation and I'm watching him watch YouTube. And what he's doing is he's watching one guy play a video game. He's not even playing the video game. He's watching one guy talk while he's playing a video game. I'm like, what the hell are you watching, Owen? He's like, oh, it's fun. I'm like,
Well,
dude. So anyway, it's all good.
listen, you have drug addicts and alcoholics and whatnot. And I caught my son, his New Year's resolution is to only have 7 5-minute runs at his phone each day because he said that he watches too much. He's a very disciplined kid. He's working on his
Yeah.
master's degree and everything, but he said that it's just too much. I need to stop. It's affecting me. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that is the
Well,
end
I
of
guess
it.
my point here is that, the fact is that this is a trend that like it better or worse, understand it, don't understand it, complain and whine about it or do something about about it,
Yeah,
right? And so
yeah.
I just think that this is one of the things that if you're not in on TikTok, if you're not creating videos, if you're not, curating some content there, I think it is definitely worth a look and, some sort of investment. We're going to try some things this year. I'm happy to report on it once we get into it. We're going to try some things on TikTok. We're going to try a few things on YouTube. we are going to try some things on Instagram because at the end of the day, look, people are people. They've not gone anywhere. The market where they're at changes, and so really, as a business owner, you just got to know where those changes are at. And for me, like it for better or for worse, I kind of feel like I am I am turning into what I was beating back in my 30s, right? When I first got in the game in my 30s, I mean, no one was paying attention to the web, and I just cleaned house because no one was, and everyone was still doing yellow pages, and I just was just having a great old time. Now I feel like that guy. I
Right.
gotta get, so I have to stop. So anyway, all right, and then the next thing is, I think this whole subscription model, I mean, we look at in 24, as far as sales and marketing. I mean, listen, this is not anything new per se. I think as far as customer acceptance, it absolutely has been. And what I mean by that is especially on the lawn side. When I first got into the lawn industry, people thought I was just bat, crazy because I wanted to bill monthly for lawn care. It's like, well, that's not how we do it. Well, that's what we do. That's how all of our programs work. We don't get much pushback on that. I've seen a lot more other companies do that. I think where you run into trouble is when folks are bundling, aeration and seeding and those types of things. We tried that and failed big time. I'm happy to talk about that.
There's a whole bookkeeping process that because
Yeah,
you can
no, no.
add and create,
Oh
and it's
gosh.
really, but what I would say is on the monthly lawn care thing, the other, and you're right, when we, first got into lawn care, it was like, why would you do this? Why would you just charge for 6 services and then starve all winter?
Right,
But the other thing
right.
that I don't like about lawn care, and I'm starting to have an impact on our clients, but every time we get a new lawn care client, is these massive this massive contra revenue account on their P&L called
Hmm.
discounts. Why in
Hmm.
the world? Why do you need to give something away? Oh, well, we don't
Yeah.
really give it up. We just increase the price and decrease. Well, why are you, is there something, do you don't think that people are stupid? I mean, I've
Hey,
never
listen.
discounting is not something
Hey,
that's
don't.
really
I don't know. I
near and
would
dear to
knock
me.
it. I mean, I guess I see some of the crap my wife does with Kohl's and these just ridiculous,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's just unreal, but it works, right? So I don't
yeah,
know. My point
yeah.
here is that I think, the a trend that I've seen and I think it's a positive thing is, this whole monthly billing and
Absolutely.
disconnecting the billing from the service. And I mean, this is kind of old hat in the pest control side. I think it's kind of newer on the lawn side, but I think we're going to continue to see more customers embrace that just because it's just how most services are working now.
One
Um,
of the things that we're seeing, and we started seeing it in 22, 23, is moving from credit card at the first of the month to ACH at the first of the month. And it was slow, but now it's starting to pick up steam. So remember, if I have a customer who gets me $1,000 a year based on the services, I'm going to pay probably almost 4% for credit cards, or I can pay 50 cents a transaction. That's if you use the CRMs in our industry. If you want to go and do it manually through the bank, you can do it for 5 cents a transaction. But
Now,
why pay the
I do want to
credit
make a
card
point
fees?
here, though. I
Yeah.
do want to make a point. This is the part where Dan and I are not always on the same page. I have not seen that in our markets, but at the same time, I have not actually tried either. So that, to be fair, I don't know. Maybe we'll try that. I don't.
It's one of those things like the whole gym membership thing, or when they started doing it, geez, are you going to let the gym in your bank account? Well,
Mhm.
we're seeing it. People allow them, vendors in their bank account, and we're definitely seeing a trend upwards. But the really neat thing is, if you're small, all right, I'll pay the pet credit card fees. If I'm doing $2 million, right? So, and I'm going to give away almost 4% of that. Um, something it's worth looking at.
Well, and you're right. You're right. I'm not going to disagree on that. I mean, the thing that I always, and maybe this is just me trying to make myself feel good, and my ego just can't handle the money because I mean, I pay a lot in credit card fees per month. But the other part of it is I'm like, well, there's a lot more staff that I don't have to hire to process checks and some of the other things that are associated when you don't do that. And so every time I try to pull that cost back to say, if I were if I were taking checks, if we were doing bill pay, would I be spending this on a person? And to this, at least until this recording, so far I have not been able to beat it. So, um, well, let's move
So
on.
you're
Let's
saying don't take credit cards or
no.
take
What I'm
checks or
saying, no. What I'm saying is that even with the credit card fee of 3 to 4% or whatever, I still couldn't do it manually cheaper if I were taking checks. That's what I'm
it's the
saying.
same process with
Yeah, I
ACH.
mean, it's you know what I mean. Like I just couldn't, and so again, maybe we'll try it this year. Again, I don't know that I agree with that, but again, I haven't tried it, so I cannot
Yep.
say. Maybe
Yep. Yep.
customers are more receptive. I don't know, but okay, let's
A
get
little
into
bit.
the fun stuff.
Yeah.
The trend that we saw in 24 that I think we're going to continue to see in 25, and that is on the technology side. And obviously, if you listen to the podcast at all, I'm a massive, massive, massive AI fan, mainly because I see the benefit of what it can do for our industry. I There's a lot of hype around AI, and I want to be careful not to just fan that because sometimes expectations are way out of whack. But for our industry, there are absolutely a lot of things that AI can clean up and help us get better at. And one of the things that we implemented this year that I really really like is AI listening to all of our calls. We've used it for sales training. We've used it for I mean, there's a lot of issues where it can listen to a call and it can coach that rep on what they did or did not do. It gives our call center manager a way to look at like who's following the script, who's not, who's leaving sales out. I mean, it that technology has given us so much visibility and insight. One of the things that drives me crazy about our industry, and I'm going to plant this flag because I think it's really important, is that most owners came up through the field side. And if you look at most companies, they're tight. I mean, they're tight on the service side. The routes are dialed in, the products are dialed in, the procedures are dialed in, and their office is a disaster. People are sitting around, like there's just really inefficient. They don't manage the office nowhere near as tight as they do the service side. And it's just a function of because that's what they know. I think with AI and kind of what we're seeing is that it's going to allow us to be much more it's going to give us a lot more visibility that you can't or have never had the ability to have in the past. And for me, I'm not looking to like hammer people. I don't think anyone, I mean, if you got people on your staff that you feel like you've got to yell at or, coerce into things, well, you probably got the wrong staff. But for me, I love giving our staff data, right? I love giving them tools that can help them get better at their job. And when you got someone listening and evaluating every single call, obviously you can't replicate that with a person, but with AI you can. That has been it's been a game changer for Triangle in terms of our close rate. And I mean, I'm not just talking that this is a little cool toy that we look at. I'm talking about real percentages. Our close rate has gone into anywhere from 5 to 10% average, per rep. And
And
so,
it's not just on the sales side. Like when, you go to business school, there's functional areas of business. There's finance, accounting, marketing, sales, management. And when I first started with ChatGPT, I was, in my mind, it was a cool way to do content.
mhm,
It's just so far beyond that. You can affect every single one of those functional areas, IT,
right,
anything, it's
right.
it's pretty neat stuff. And if you're not involved with it, we had Andrew Ladder on the podcast last couple months ago, and he's like an AI guy, and you should check on our website for those show notes. There's just so much, and I think
Yeah.
we're just at the tip of the iceberg. I really do.
For sure, for sure. And I mean, hopefully what we're going to see in 25 is I really want to see, and if we got any of these vendors listening to us, please listen to this, which is our CRMs, we should have a lot more integration going on with AI. I just feel like on the customer service side, there's so much more that can be done. I mean, for me, I would love to have, I mean, like, for example, if you log in, like, I mean, I know you're an Apple guy, Dan. I know that's like your
No,
favorite.
not at all.
Yeah, you are.
I have an Apple phone. I do have an iPhone, but
Yeah, and so have you enabled Apple Intelligence, by the way, on your phone? Oh, it's fantastic. And I love it, right? Because it'll summarize emails for me. It'll summarize. I mean, to me, like,
you're
why
the
is it?
guy who's always the first to the party. Tell me what you
But
got
but
for
hang on,
Christmas.
but hang
What
on.
did you get for Christmas? Glasses with
I did.
AI. Tell me how
Yes,
those work.
yes, I did get the Ray-Ban. My wife
Wh-
got me the Ray-Ban
What is
AI
it that they
glasses.
do?
Oh man, it's insane. So okay, so we're going to take a trip overseas, and
Yeah.
supposedly, I have not tested this yet.
Yeah.
Supposedly, when I'm looking at signs and I'm looking at other things, it can translate for me. So that's going to be a big hit, right? And music and a bunch of other crap. I don't know. I haven't, like, to be fully honest, I have not. I had a few tests I had to get done before the end of the year, so I haven't had a chance to take the deep dive on these stuff. But we're off track. Getting back to what AI and CRM integration to me, there needs to be, and I think, some of these are getting there, but they just need to go faster. And we need to have customer notes that are summarized by AI. We need to have calls that are summarized by AI and integrated in. And some of that technology is available, but it needs to be more widespread. And the reason I asked you about Apple Intelligence is because, Apple launched this, and the back end of that is ChatGPT, Apple Intelligence, and it's not where I want it to be at quite yet. There's still some, like, to me, I want to be able to, like, just say, hey, write this email and here's the main points, go, and it's done. It's not quite there yet, but it is very good at summarizing content. And so when you think about, like, what kind of experience I'm trying to give our customers, like, our customers should just have to tell us something once, and no matter who is interacting with that customer, technology should be there to support that person so that we can give them the same fantastic experience no matter who they're talking to, whether it's a technician, someone in the office, a salesperson, even me, right? I pull up their account and it's AI says, hey, here's this customer, here's what's going on with them, here's the latest interaction, boom, done. We're close, but we got some work to do there. I don't think we're quite there yet. So, okay, shall we continue?
Move on. Yep.
Yes. Let's talk about M&A. I know that's your
Hmm.
favorite thing.
Yeah.
Um, I'm how I mean, we broke the biggest story. This wasn't last year; it was at the end of 23. When Rentokil did the massive acquisition of Terminix. Um, I think that I mean, I actually want you to talk about this, Dan. We've talked about this a little bit last year, which is that impact on M&A. Because Rentokil's got their hands full. I think anyone that's going to take over Terminix. And by the way, I'm not a Terminix hater. That's not a dig on Terminix or anything at all. But I mean,
It's a
listen,
massive endeavor
it is
to
just
do that.
unreal what they
And
bit
I
off
don't
on.
even think that they realized how much work it was going to be. But what I can tell you is that in 24, up until 24, it was the Rollins, the Rentokils, and the Terminix when they were independent. And, those guys were doing all the deals. Now it's the private equity guys. The strategics, which are the guys who are in the industry, have pulled back. I want to say that they're looking, the market is not dead by any stretch of the imagination, but we could sling anything and it would be purchased just a
Well,
couple of
money's more
years ago.
expensive now,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
we
that's the
could
reality.
sling bad companies, and
Right,
somebody would buy it.
right,
Now, quality companies, although you've got a lot of PE guys, and there are some guys in PE who really understand our industry, but most do not. Most are tire kickers who come in, and I'll probably get some hate mail on this, but that's where I see it. I see that
hate
the
hate away,
M&A
hate away.
market, yeah, I see
We've
that the
talked about
M&A
this.
market, yeah, I see the M&A market kind of normalizing because we
Uh-huh.
were, I don't want to say in a bubble, but we were just the velocity of the deals getting done and whatnot. And what's interesting is with the election, we hear, oh, M&A is going to really spike up and whatnot. Remember, our M&A is different than drug companies getting together or technology companies to get together who are heavily regulated and it takes a lot of capital. Our M&A are small mom and pop businesses, and maybe, actually, if it's less than 100 million, by all, definitions, that's a small business, maybe not to you and I, but we can do these deals, right? Whether there's a lot of regulations, not a lot of regulations, and whatnot. So I don't know that all of this, the election, oh, geez, M&A is going to blast off. I think it will in other industries. I think our industry we're in a good spot, and the M&A activity is where it should be. It's normalized. If you have a good company, you can get a good valuation and you can move it on, and it's great. If you have a company that's 2 or 3 years old that you just blew out and doesn't make any money and whatnot, and there's not a big market for
Right, right.
So
Well, I was going to say, I think if anything, And by the way, I'm not an M&A guy. Don't want to be, you know what I mean? No desire whatsoever. But I think until money gets a lot cheaper, I think it's going to be a while before we see what happened, just 2 years ago. I think when money's cheap and people can, I mean, because then the numbers work, right? I mean, you have the risk tolerance that if it doesn't work out, or if the company's not quite what you need it to be, you're not like, oh my gosh, you're not going to have to pay a ton more for it. There should be enough margin there, I guess is my point. I don't think that's the case now, especially now that money's a lot.
What you've also got is that a lot of the best companies have already been bought, right? So
Mm,
there are great companies now that are evolving and developing, and it will get back to where it was, but you don't have as much supply. The other thing is the valuations, I don't want to say that they've come down a ton, but they have definitely pulled in a piece. And it's kind of like 2 years ago, you could buy a stock for $100, but now it's $80. But then you go back and say, well, I want to sell it for 100. I'm willing to do it now. Well, that
that ship has
that
sailed.
ship's has sailed, right? And so it's a function of the market, right?
Right.
And a
Yep.
lot of times what we're seeing, a lot of these PE guys are putting together these crazy incentive-based earnouts that there's just no way that it's going to happen.
Right.
But people are enamored, and
Yeah, they
so
use it for a
they
marketing tool, not an actual payout tool. And
yeah,
you got to be careful of
and
that.
go through the diligence and see, up until about a year or two ago, we never had a company fail in diligence. Now we've got a few that fail in diligence with PE companies, and it's basically them doing research, uh, you
Mm.
know, and then saying no. Now, like I said, there are some terrific PE companies in our industry. I'll shout out, Certus is really good, Rocket is really good. Uh, so there are some guys who know what they're doing, but there are also a lot of people doing research,
Right.
on your time. So
Right. Yep. 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 All right. We got to finish out. Let's just real quick
yeah.
2025 big picture things that I think that are going to happen. Number one is I think we're going to continue to see M&A. I don't think it's going to go
Mhm.
away. I don't think it's
It'll
going to
never
slow
go away.
down. Yeah.
By,
And I
by the
think,
way, I've been in this industry for 30 years, and so if you remember, Waste Management was
right.
buying up pest control
Vendor
companies, and
roll
then
up.
that kind of came down, and
Right.
and it goes through, it ebbs and flows. It's not going away. It's just the velocity that it was, going through just a year and a half, 2 years ago.
And
It's
listen,
not there.
as much as we like to pick on private equity, you're right. There are definitely some companies that know what they're doing, and it's overall good for the industry because what it does is it pushes prices up. And I don't think private equity is ever going to pull back from stable income. Listen, our industry is valuable for a reason. Don't ever forget that, right? I mean, we have consistent cash flow, and we have very good cash flow, and I know that for a fact. I talk to
All
bankers a
about
lot.
gross margin.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's all about
I
gross margin.
mean,
And
listen, my banker, we talk a lot, and he's not the only one to say this. You and I have talked about this. Is that we are, I'm talking pest and lawn, really, is like, well, we may not have big assets. It is a high cash flow business. And so that is valuable. I don't see that going anywhere. I think there's always going to be a market for that, especially on the private equity side when people trying to grow their money. Like this is absolutely a great industry. It's solid. The fundamentals are there. And I don't think that's going to change, at
And
all.
for anybody who's new in the industry, or newer, younger guys, or even older guys who don't understand why they're not making money, don't undercut. Don't,
Right. Right.
you got to keep your gross margins up, right?
Right.
It's all about the gross margins. So sure, you could sell something a dollar cheaper than the next guy, and then the next guy is going to come and take it from you. Don't get into that battle. It's all about selling quality of service.
And listen, if you've not done this, and I hate to even do this because anything that I give to Dan that's positive, I feel like is a negative. No, I'm just kidding. He has a nice little presentation where he does like break even analysis. That absolutely, if you've not seen that, maybe we should link it up. Will you link that up, Dan? We can have Marisa maybe link that
Yeah, I can.
presentation. It's a really good way. If you don't understand gross margin, or if you like are wondering like, hey, how can I make more profit? That presentation is fantastic because it walks you through how to manage that gross margin very, very well and how to look at your business. And so anyway, that's a big thing. Second thing is, I think we're going to continue to see labor pressures as far as shortages in technicians and shortage for just labor in general. I don't think that's going to change. We've, again, I don't want to rehack and all of that, but the fact is the labor market's changing. We're never going to have much labor as we did before. So get over it, figure it out, make sure that you can find ways to automate tasks, implement more AI as much as you can, both in the office and out in the field, because the fact of the matter is that you're going to have limited labor, and either you're going to have to pay more for it or you're going to have to get more efficient. But, this whole idea that I'm going to have cheap labor, those days are gone. Unless you're like want to run a daycare, which none of us want to do that. Third thing is that I think we're going to continue to see massive advancements as far as AI. I have not seen that slow down one bit. I think our software vendors should be catching up this year. I think getting, our software vendors and our CRMs using AI more to summarize data, to summarize customer accounts. I'm hoping we're going to see that this year. I mean, it's already out, but it's very limited. Like there's there's a lot more that can be done there. I think we're going to see that quite a bit. And then, I think the last thing, and this will never, well, maybe not the last thing, but I think, this whole idea of customer expectations. I mean, customer expectations continue to evolve. I don't see that changing one bit. Google has turned into just a nightmare to get places like validated. Like if you create locations, I don't know if you've heard this, Dan, but I mean, everyone I'm talking to now, they're, someone will mark their business and then they have to go out and get their location validated again. That process is hard broken. They've turned it over to AI, which has created even more issues because now you're talking to a computer and trying to convince a computer that, hey, no, this location is valid. I'm on a soapbox. I'm getting off of it. But my point
No,
is
no,
like,
but there are landlords, people who buy buildings, and they call them Google offices, and all they do is put
yeah.
plaques out with people's names, and that's going to stop.
Oh,
Google's
it's
going to
already
say,
stopped. It's already
I mean,
stopped. I mean, again, that whole process is all managed by AI now, and it is hard broke. And so I just feel like, the fact is that, and what does that have to do with customer expectations and digital marketing? Is that it's getting to be more and more complicated, and it's getting more and more difficult to compete in that area. I think if anything, if I'm sitting back and I'm looking at 25, what do you do? Well, you focus on the fundamentals, right? I mean, when I used to run Coal March, and I tell someone, I'm like, look, we're going to grow you, like this is a two-way street, right? I'm going to give you all the leads, but you got to, you got to deliver on the promise. And so my point is like, speed and convenience, that's obviously a big thing with our customers, making sure that it's personalized as much as you can. And then, of course, managing that reputation online, that's a big deal. And then the last thing, last Donnie thing is, I do believe, this is not political, I do believe economic wise, we're going to see some very positive things for business owners in the next year. And why I say that is, and Dan, I'm sure you're probably telling your clients this as well. Some of these tax benefits that were set to expire, they're probably going to get extended. I think some of the things that we're seeing with inflation is starting to work. Is that going to change? With the new administration, who knows? I don't really care. What I do care about is economic policy. And I will tell you, I'm super excited about that because I feel like it's going to be a good thing. And by the way, have you seen this whole have you seen this thing going on with, oh my gosh, that department that got created and it's now up in the court? And I've been getting several emails about it. You know what I'm talking about?
no.
Oh my gosh, yes, you do. Where you have to record out your assets or whatever, like the office of. Give me a break. Hang on. I'm going to find it here. I'm
No,
going to
you mean
find
the
it.
filing for ownership
Yeah.
that goes on and off and
Oh my
confuses the heck out
gosh.
of everyone? Yeah,
Beneficial
beneficial
ownership.
ownership. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
if you go to
not.
their website now, if
Yeah,
you go to the
yeah.
website, it's like, nope, you can. This is what I love. It says you can file. However, we're up in court right now and they're appealing the order. So like
Well, so they put it in, which it's such an overreach. No,
it
nobody wants to
totally.
do it. Then there was a court case that put it on hold, and then another court case brought it back, and another court case is now on hold again. How do you expect
Yeah.
business owners or the American public, like, you know, today you got to pay taxes? Well, maybe not. Maybe I mean, and so the enforcement of it, and I believe that, if it ever comes to fruition, you're going to have, well, with Trump, I don't think that it's going to come to fruition. I think the
I
whole
don't think
thing's
it
going
will
to
either.
die,
I think
actually.
it will.
But
Yep.
but if it does, how do you tell people you got to do this now and you can't do that, and
Oh,
not
and
pay
that you're
dividends? It's
liable.
crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, let me just read it. It's hilarious. It says, please note that beneficial ownership information reporting requirements have been affected by a recent federal court order. The Department of Treasury is appealing that order. In the meantime, reporting companies are not currently required to file this stupid report. It doesn't say that. And are not subject to liability if they fail to do so. That's the key part. While applicable order remains in force. It says, however, reporting companies may still opt to file this stupid report, which I opted not to do. But anyway, long story short,
Most people should opt not to do it, but it's kind of
exactly right.
But by the way, what you just read is the second round of lawsuits.
I know.
It went, it's crazy. So
it is crazy. It is crazy. My point here is that, if I look at 2025, I am definitely feeling good about economic policy. And I feel like for business owners and business in general, we're going to have a very good environment. Not that it hasn't been, it hasn't been bad. I mean, listen, I don't hear anyone hemming and hawing and crying about the last 4 years either, but I just think I think at least for owners,
yes,
specifically in taxes, I think on the tax side, well, this beneficial ownership crap needs to go away.
The whole,
yeah, but I think overall we're going to see.
I think that since the Great Recession, 2008, 2009, 2009, since then we've been on an upward trajectory. Remember, in our industry, you don't want a white hot economy because you can't hire people, and you don't want a horrible economy because you don't have any customers. You want it right in the middle, and that's where it's been, and that's why we've prospered over the past 10 or so years or more. So.
All righty, Dan, anything to add before we finish out here?
That's it.
All right. Well, just a reminder, all the resources and topics that we talked about today, well, I won't say all of them because we talked about a lot, but most of them available on the podcast website. Just go over to pmpindustryinsider.com. Take a look under show notes. And as always, we appreciate any ratings and reviews that you have. We want to get the word out to other folks so they can listen in, hopefully help them with their business. And with that, we're signing off. And again, one of the things I always like to finish off with is that if you have complaints, just general complaining in general, Dan appreciates those kind of calls, so just give him a call.
Love the hate mail.
That's right. Exactly. All right. We'll see you all next time. Take care now.
Sounds good. See you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.